So Asperger's versus autism, what's the real difference? Is there any? I'm covering everything and more right now, so don't go anywhere. Hey guys, welcome back to the Aspie world. My name is Dan. I have autism, ADHD, OCD, and dyslexia, and I make weekly videos all about this stuff. So if you're new around here and you want to learn more, remember to hit the subscribe button by clicking the notification bell down below. And if you're watching on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, be sure to follow this page for more videos. Okay, so I get this question asked so many times. Asperger's syndrome, autism, which one is it? Is there a difference? Is there one more superior than the other? Is one more of a valid diagnosis than the other? All of these things. So I'm going to clarify everything within this video right now. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the origins of Asperger's syndrome. Now, the history of this became a terminology in the 1980s, 1990s. A woman called Lana Wing based her diagnostic criteria and proposed that Asperger's syndrome should be a diagnosis that would be included in the diagnostic criteria for neurological disorders like autism and everything else. Now, two things. One, she named Asperger's syndrome after the research that was done by Hans Asperger from 1942, which is a big research paper done on young boys who were displaying low support needs of autism, which means that they could do life, but they needed little support or some encouragement in certain areas, right? Whereas like the typical kind of autistic model that they had from Leo Kanner's classic autism model was more children who were completely kind of disabled in many areas of their life. And so Lorna Wing said, well, in 1980s, 1990s, I think it was about 1992, roughly, but please forgive me if this is incorrect. Lorna Wing, diagnosing autistic individuals, she said, well, we need some classification to understand where autistic people fit on this classification line, right? So not all of them fit the Leo Kanner model. Actually, some of them fit this Hans Asperger model, and there's a clear difference here. So she said, why don't we call these Asperger's syndrome and this classic autism? And that's what happened. And it was like that from the 1990s right up until 2013. When they classified this, what classifies people having autism versus having Asperger's syndrome diagnosis? And it comes from this. People with Asperger's syndrome typically didn't have a speech or language delay, and they also displayed a higher IQ and verbal IQ, like a lexicon, right, than the typical autistic individual. Now, autistic individuals may have many different delays. It could have even global learning delay along with autistic symptoms or traits. Now, they also would have a average to below average IQ. And this was really interesting because this kind of really did make a difference in the way in which they were able to kind of understand autism back in that day. Now, if you fast forward to 2013, the DSM-5, when that was updated, so the DSM is the manual for kind of diagnosing people with different things in the US and the UK and Europe now, the DSM-5 changed Asperger's to being not Asperger's syndrome anymore, to just being autism spectrum disorder. They kind of merged it into ASD. So why did they do this? They did this because when people in the United States of America were diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, it was a form of autism, but it was like the way in which it presented itself so that the people understood what, kind of like this. If you said to somebody, hey, this is my kid, they're autistic, and the kid, has no verbal skills and completely in a world of their own, versus somebody who says, hey, I'm autistic, and they are like me, able to verbally talk, create videos, upload stuff, and teach people, they'd be like, well, how are these both autism? Just a heads up, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me, I have a coaching program which is available to everybody. Now, if you want in on this, definitely click the link down below right now to book a coaching with me, because a lot of people get a lot out of the coaching because I'm helping them express themselves in their own way to help them with their potential. Now, if you want access to this, again, the link is in the description down below for one-to-one coaching with Dan, me, or you can go to theaspieworld.com/121. So the number one, number two, number one. All right, guys, on with the video. And it is both autism, but back then, it was so difficult to get people to understand that. The advocacy for autism, the understanding was not there. So when they made it easier to say, oh, I have Asperger's syndrome, they say, oh, okay, cool, because it kind of made sense to split it off. Because then they realized, okay, well, this means that it's not like this kid, it's something a little bit different, right? Which is still an autism spectrum disorder, but it just had different implications. The idea of this changed in 2013 because the American healthcare insurance companies were not allowing people who had a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome to access support and help for people on the autism spectrum. Now, we know that autism and Asperger's is the same thing, But because it clearly didn't say autism on the diagnostic paper, the insurance companies weren't allowing people to claim or actually get access to the support and help that they so surely needed. So the DSM said, wow, if we just call it all autism spectrum disorder, that means everyone will have access to the same thing, and then you work out what level of access they need once you assess them, which made sense, right? So that's how that happened. Now, there's also a functioning labels problem, which a lot of people talk about. And functioning labels is basically people say high functioning or low functioning or mild autism. And then you kind of get this joke where it was like spicy autism, right? Or mild Asperger's. And it became very much a confusion and somewhat of a stigma type of thing. And people got really annoyed because it felt detrimental when someone was saying like, oh, I have Asperger's syndrome, but oh no, I have autism. It kind of segregated them within the community group, which didn't need to happen. This was clearly just for accessing support on a legal stature for the clinical kind of professional world. So they decided that they would also do away with terms like high functioning autism, low functioning autism, mild Asperger's, mild autism. They got rid of all that stuff. So it's now just ASD, autism spectrum disorder. And you can be classified as autism spectrum disorder level 1, 2, or 3. 1 being the typical Asperger's diagnosis, 2 being between Asperger's and the classic autism, and 3 being more classic autism. So higher support needs, more issues. Now, the only other classification label that people may use is a low support needs autistic or a high support needs autistic, which is less detrimental to people, and it leads people to feel less negative about that, right? But there's a bigger question. How do autistic people who are diagnosed with autism identify today? Well, some people, like myself, still use the term Asperger syndrome or ASPE, hence the name of my channel, the ASPE world, right? And I don't see anything wrong with that. A lot of people think that Hans Asperger was in cahoots with the Nazis, and I did a big 26-minute in-depth video talking about this document that was released in 2018 in the paper. I go through every page in the paper and I pick out the pieces where people talk about Hans Asperger and the Nazi potential coalition, but there isn't any actual sufficient evidence to say that he was ever colluding with the Nazis. It's just that he happened to live and work in Nazi-occupied Vienna at the time. And so people can still use the term. It doesn't make it kind of derogative or anything nasty. There's no negativity attached to it. It's just kind of a misconception from a paper released in 2018. I'll link that video down below just so you get a feel for what that was if you are interested. And it's a very fascinating video. But how do people identify it? Some people just choose not to say autistic, but some people choose to say Asperger or Asperger's syndrome, or I have Asperger's syndrome or Aspergic. And that's fine. It's whatever you want to identify with, because at the end of the day, there is no real difference between autism and Asperger's syndrome. It's literally just the lived experience that matters. It's how you deal with something. It's how you go forward through life. It's how you want to access support. It's how you want to identify. It's how you want to tell somebody what the things that you have difficulties are and how that is presented in what format and what nomenclature or naming, should I say. That being said, if you have anything to add to this video, drop it in a comment down below. I'll be really happy to read and respond to that. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.